Okay, hi everybody. It's time to do a little review. So I am going to be working today on Pre-Cal C Practice Test P. In your packet, it is the top sheet. It is, I've shrunk it down so it's 2 pages on 1 page, but it says at the top, show all work. Here we go, problem number 1. When I do a problem like this, I have found that the easiest thing to do is to multiply through by the common denominator. So you're going to multiply everything by your common denominator, which is 4 times 3 or 12. So I'm not going to be lazy. I am physically going to write a 12 next to each of these so that I can see 4 cancels into 12 3 times, leaving me with 3x plus 9. 3 goes into 12 4 times, leaving me with minus 8x. And negative 3 times 12 is negative 36. Now I will combine like terms. So negative 5x plus 9 equals negative 36. Negative 5x equals negative 45, subtracting 9 from both sides, and x equals 9. So the answer to the problem is 9. If at any point I go too fast, remember, you just stop, catch up, rewind, whatever you need to do. We need to know how to do every single one of these problems. So, B. A little absolute value inequality. First thing I'm going to do is divide everything by 2. Remember, when we solve an absolute value inequality using the number line, we can't have a number here. So I'm going to divide everything by 2, leaving me with this. Now I'll draw my number line, and right in the middle of the number line, I will put a 3/2. Remember, it's the opposite of whatever number is inside the absolute value. Then I will put open dots on either side of the 3/2. To find the labels for those open dots, I will count backwards and forwards 2 units. So I'm going to add 2 this way, and I'm going to subtract 2 this way. So I'm adding 2 here, subtracting 2 here. So 2 is 4/2. So if I choose to do it with fractions, I'll get 3/2 plus 4/2, which is 7/2. If I do it with decimals, I'll make this a 1.5, and 1.5 plus 2 is 3.5. Now I'll back up. 3/2 minus 4/2 is negative 1/2, or 1.5 minus 2 is negative 0.5. So if I'm using fractions, I have the interval. Oh, wait a minute. Then I have to look to see where I'm shading. Where am I shading? Well, it's greater than. Greater than means I push out farther. My distance is greater. Remember, this is a distance. It's greater than 2. So I push out this way. So my answer in fractions is this. In decimals, it would be the same interval, but I'll use 0.5 and 3.5. Doesn't matter to me at all whether you use fractions or decimals. It's whatever you're most comfortable with. Okay, next, we have to solve this equation. Now, this is not a greater than problem. This is an equation, which means that I'm either going to try to factor it, maybe it factors, or I'm going to complete the square, or I'm going to use my quadratic formula. Now, it is really hot in this room. I am not feeling like I want to do any extra work, so I'm going to go ahead and just use my quadratic formula. So A equals 3, B equals 7, C equals negative 2. here we go. If you don't have this memorized, you gotta get it memorized, because I am not giving it to you. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I have negative 7 plus or minus the square root of, all right, now watch it here. Oh shoot, I didn't bring the calculator. I'm going to do this on my own. 49, okay, this is going to be plus 24. So 49 and 24 is going to make 73. So I got a 73 under here. And 73 does not break down at all. Therefore, that is the answer to the problem. That was pretty easy. All right, now number 2, I'm doing some operations with my complex numbers, my i's. So here we go. 4 plus I minus 3 minus 2i. Now, in order to collect like terms, I'm going to need to do my distributive here. Get rid of those parentheses. So 4 plus I minus 3 plus 2i. Distribute the negative all the way through. And we end up with 1 plus 3i. That's it. We are done with that problem. Easy peasy. All right, now we got a multiply problem. Now, when we do this multiplication, we are going to have to FOIL. We have a big parentheses times another parentheses. We're going to FOIL. So here we go. First, outside, inside, last. So 6 times 3, 6 times negative 2i, I times 3 and I times negative 2i. There we go. Now, these two in the middle are clearly like terms, so I'm going to add them together. A negative 12 and a positive 3 is going to give me a negative 9i. Now, what about I squared? Okay, well, we've talked about this. Everybody knows this. I squared is the same as negative 1. So I have a negative 2 times a negative 1, which is a positive 2, combined with my 18 gives me a 20. There's the answer to the problem. That's all there is to it. Number 3 says which property? All right, you can do this. 3 plus negative 3 is 0. That is the additive inverse. Additive inverse. They cancel out and make 0. That's the additive inverse. Now, check out B. Notice that on the right side of the left side of the equation, my things are 4xy. On the right side of the equation, my things are still 4xy. So what property is that? I didn't change any order. I just changed the grouping. So that makes the associative property of addition. Oh, of multiplication. My gosh, I am so hot in this room. That's the associative property of multiplication. And then C on the bottom. What property is that? Well, if you're a little confused, pretend it's flip-flopped. What property would that be if you went from the right side to the left side? Then you can see it real easily. That is the distributive property. Remember, the distributive property includes factoring. So if you are doing factoring, you're doing the distributive property. Next one. We're going to solve this big ugly equation. Okay, so here we go. In order to solve this equation, oh my, there's a lot of terms up there. So remember, we can factor by grouping. So look at the first two terms, just the first two. What can you take out of them? X squared. So we'll pull out an x squared and be left with x, plus 4. Now look at the last two terms. What can we take out of them? Negative 4. Now remember, you took out a negative 4, so you'll be left with a positive x and a positive 4. If factoring by grouping is going to work, you have to end up with the same parentheses, and we did. So x plus 4, and then what's left is the x squared minus 4, which everybody knows x squared minus 4 is the difference of squares. And factors as such, x plus 2, x minus 2. Okay, so what are the answers? Well, we're going to set each one of these equal to 0. Every factor, every parentheses equal to 0. And our answers turn out to be negative 4, the opposite of that parentheses, 2, and negative 2. So we have 3 answers to that problem. After all, it's an x cubed equation. So we have 3 answers to the problem, and there they are. Okay, now we've got one of these guys. So do you remember we spent some time solving these? We also know that when we square both sides, which is what we're going to do, we need to check our answer. We're going to have to check. Because anytime we square both sides, we introduce the possibility of an extraneous root. All right, well, a squared cancels the square root, so we have 3x minus 8 equal to 36. Going to add 8 to both sides and divide by 3. Oh my, doesn't come out nicely, but that's life in the fast lane. We'll just have to deal with it. I think we can. I think we'll be all right. I'm going to check it now. So I go back to my original problem. I'll put 44/3 in. And I wonder if I'm going to get 6. That's what I'm supposed to get. Well, 3 times 44/3 is just 44. 44 take away 8 is 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. So it checks that, even though it's an ugly number, that is the answer to the problem. All right. Now C. Quadratic inequality. So the first thing we're going to do is factor it. Take a moment. Can you figure out how to factor that? Do you see how that factors? X minus 6, x plus 2. Now I'm going to draw my number line. And I'm going to put a negative 2 and a 6 on the number line. And I'm going to color those in. And now I'm going to pick any number I want. And it seems like lately some of us have been picking 0. And that's such an easy number to use. However, just pay attention to where 0 is. 0 is in this section. So you're going to test this section of the number line. So if I put in 0, I get negative 6 times 2, which is negative 12. Is negative 12 greater than or equal to 0? Is negative 12 positive? Well, no, it's not. So what does that tell me? That tells me that this section of the number line is not colored in. This section of the number line is not colored in, which means this section is and this section is. Remember, the sections alternate. So this one is not colored because it didn't work in the equation. So I color in this one. It's a greater than or equal to, so I do need a bracket, to infinity, or negative infinity to negative 2. There is the answer to that question. The next time we have class, the next class period that we have, you are going to have a quiz. And that quiz will have a problem just like this and a problem just like 1B. So next time we're together in class, you will have a 2-problem quiz. One problem will look just like this one, and one problem will look like 1B, which we've already done. Okay. All right, well that takes care of that page. Let's turn the page, see what we've got. Okay, well we've seen this before for sure. We have 2 points, 1, -2, and 6, 3. And we're going to find the distance and the midpoint. Now, I'm not telling you ever again that this means distance. You need to know that means distance. AB, with nothing written around it, above it, below it, through it, whatever, just a plain AB means the distance from A to B. So we know our distance formula, 1 minus 6 squared, and -2 minus 3 squared. X minus x, y minus y. So that gives me 1 minus 6 is 5, squared is 25. Now somebody out there is thinking, wait a minute, Miss Ford, 1 minus 6 is -5, and you are right. But what happens when I square -5? I still get 25. Plus, -2 minus 3. That's -5 also. Squared is 25. So I end up with the square root of 50, 25 plus 25. And I'm not done until I've made sure I can't reduce that. Well, I can reduce that. 50 is 25 times 2. So the square root of 25 is 5, square root of 2. There is your final answer for your distance. Midpoint is average. So go back to the original 2 points. We're going to add the x's and divide by 2, and add the y's and divide by 2. So adding the x's gives me 7 halves. At 1 plus 6 is 7, divided by 2. Adding the y's, -2 and 3 makes 1, divided by 2 is 1/2. There is your midpoint. Now I've got 2 points. This is, I'm now on 6A. I'm on 6A. I have 2 points, and they are asking me to find the equation of the line. So I'm immediately thinking I need to end up with an answer that looks like y equals, 5x minus 18 or something like that. Okay? So what do I need to do first? First, I need to find my slope. So that's easy enough to do. My slope is y minus y over x minus x. So y minus y, x minus x. All right, here we go. 3 minus 15, -12. -2 minus 2. That is not 0. That's -2 plus a -2. That's -4. So my slope is 3. -12 over -4. So that goes here in my equation. Now I'll pick a point. I'll pick that one, they're nice and positive. And I'll put 15 in for y and 2 in for x. So 15 equals 6 plus b, and b equals 9. So my answer is the equation y equals 3x plus 9. That is the answer to the question. B is essentially the same problem, except in B, we are perpendicular to this line, and we contain the point -2, 1. Now, in order to do this problem, you still need the slope. We're still shooting for the equation of a line, so this is still going to be our answer. But we need the slope, and like over here, we had 2 points, so we just did y minus y, x minus x. Here we don't have 2 points, so we're going to have to find our slope differently. To find our slope, we're going to, do you know what to do? We're going to look at the equation they gave us, and we're going to get y by itself. So I'll have negative y equals negative 2x plus 6. So y equals 2x minus 6. I'm going to divide by that negative because I have to have the y completely by itself. So this is the given line. It is not the answer. This is the given line. And the slope of the given line is 2. Right here. That's the slope. Y equals mx plus b. That's the slope. But I want the line, read the problem, this is 6b, it says we want to be perpendicular. Now, if we want to be perpendicular, our slope is going to have to be negative 1/2. So, opposite reciprocal, remember, perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slope. So I'm going to write my equation, y equals mx plus b. I'm going to use my point they gave me, so y is 1, m is negative 1/2, x is negative 2, negative 1/2 times negative 2, they cancel each other out and make 1. So it looks like b turns out to be 0 when I subtract 1 from both sides. So my answer, remember I'm looking for an answer, so my answer will be y equals negative 1/2 x plus 0. And if you don't want to put that plus 0 on the end, that's fine. Most big kids don't do that. All right, number 7. Oh, this is an easy one. We got a center at 6, negative 2, and a radius of 4. And it says write the equation of the circle. You don't even show any work for this one. There's no work to show. This is an automatic. We're just going to say x minus 6 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals, watch it here, 16. You have x's squared, you have y squared, and you have your radius squared, 4 squared. Notice that the parentheses are the opposite of the center. So if the center was at 6, we're going to write x minus 6. Told you that one was easy. Next one's pretty easy too. We just have to take it a step at a time. So you're not here for me to talk to and take ideas from, so I'll just jump in and do it. But remember, these are the ones that have lots of different ways that you can start. You don't have to do what I'm doing first. But what I'm going to do first is square that out. So I'm going to have 9x squared. Don't forget, when you square that, see how the parentheses is there? You're squaring the whole quantity, so that's going to be 9x squared. Over 6x to the 4th. Now, you see this guy right here? He has a negative exponent. Remember, when things have negative exponents, they get moved? So we're going to move him right up to the top. Oh, wait a minute. I'm bringing up 2 y's, but I already have a y up there. So that's going to give me a total of 3 y's on the top. Now, I've got a 9 over a 6. I can take a 3 out of both of those, 3 over 2. I've got x squared over x to the 4th. Now, you're going to cancel. Who is bigger? X to the 4th is bigger. Where is he? On the bottom. How much bigger is he? X squared. So you're going to have 2 extra x's on the bottom because x to the 4th weighs more than x squared. And then you got your y cubed. There is the answer to that one. I'm doing your test for you, kids. This is your test. This is what your test looks like. Now we've got our projectile motion problem. So here's the general formula. I promised you I would give it to you. A ball is thrown with an initial velocity of 20 feet per second from the top of a building 30 feet tall. Remember, your initial velocity goes here and your initial height goes here. So our equation is h equals, or s of t, that stands for height. So if that notation confuses me, and it might confuse you, and that's okay, don't use it. Call it h. H is negative 16t squared plus 20t plus 30. That is the equation we are going to use for part A, B, and C. Well, actually, that is the answer to A. A says write the equation for this problem. There it is. All I did was plug in the initial velocity they gave me and the height they gave me, the original height they gave me. I'm ready to go. Now B says, when does the ball hit the ground? Now, kids, I need you to think about this. You have this equation. It has 2 variables in it. One of the variables stands for height. The other variable stands for time. Every question is going to give you either the height or the time, and then you're going to find the other one. So if they give you the height, you'll find the time. If they give you the time, you'll find the height. So when you read the question, you have to figure out, what did they give me? When does the ball hit the ground? I don't think they gave you a time because it says when. You're supposed to find the time. What did they tell you about the ball? They told you it's on the ground. So how high is it if it's on the ground? Of course, its height is 0. If it's on the ground, its height is 0. Now, this is completely up to you. You're going to use the quadratic formula to solve this equation, okay? We're going to use the quadratic formula. If you can divide anything out, I would do that. Now, don't divide if it's going to leave you a fraction. So I'm not going to divide by 4 because even though 4 would do these, it won't do 30. And I don't want to mess with a fraction, especially since I forgot my calculator. So I'm going to divide everything by -2. That's the biggest thing I can divide by. It's the best I can do. Divide by -2. So 0 equals 8t squared minus 10t minus 15. Using my quadratic formula, t equals, here I go, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Now, you've got a calculator, you can use it. I don't have one, so I'm going to have to do this by hand. So 10 plus or minus. Now, I've got double negative going on, so that's going to be a plus. So let's see, 32 times 15 is 482, added to 100, so that's going to be the square root of 582 over 16. Now, we're going to get two answers when we type that into our calculator. We're going to type in 10 plus the square root of 582 over 16, and 10 minus the square root of 582 over 16. If I had a calculator, I'd type it in. Remember, when you type this in, you do 10 plus the square root of 582 equals, and then divided by 16. Otherwise, you won't get the right answer. So 10 plus root 582 equals, divided by 16, and it came out to be 2.13. I'm cheating, I'm looking at the answer since I didn't bring a calculator. And then 10 minus root 582 equals, divided by 16, worked out to be negative 0.88. Now I'm looking at the answer sheet, can't help it, getting these answers. And I noticed that I have crossed this one out and said this one is extraneous. Do you understand why that is? This question said, what times is the ball on the ground? You can't have a negative time. What's happening in the problem is, if we do a picture of it, the ball is thrown up in the air starting at a height of 30 feet. So there's really only one time that it's on the ground, and that would be 2.13 seconds. The other answer I got is the other piece of the parabola. It's a legit answer. I mean, I didn't make any mistakes. You didn't make any mistakes. But it didn't make any sense in this problem, because the ball isn't really on the ground back here because it didn't get thrown till here and it was up on top of the roof. So that there is an answer there, but it doesn't make sense in terms of the problem. And then, okay, last question then is, and again, I can't erase this because it goes back to this. The last question is, how high is the ball after 1.5 seconds? Now remember, how high is the ball after 1.5 seconds? Remember, there are two variables. They're always going to give you one and you're going to find the other one. Okay? So, how high is the ball after 1.5 seconds? What did they give you? They gave you the time. So you're going to put 1.5 in here. And again, you got a calculator. I do not. You have one. And you type that in your calculator and you're going to get the answer. So you're going to take 1.5 and square it. That's 2.25. You're going to multiply these two together. That's 30. And another 30 then on the end. And 2.5 times 16 is negative 36. Plus 30 plus 30. So I'm getting 24 feet as my answer, if I add and subtracted and everything right. Did that without a calculator. Aren't you pretty impressed? Yeah, that's what it says. 24 feet. Okay, so on Monday, you will bring me your completed practice test. Practice test number 1, you will bring that to me completed. Your homework is going to be due on Tuesday, if I see you Tuesday, on Wednesday, if I don't see you Tuesday. So one more time, your homework is due Tuesday, if I see you Tuesday, Wednesday, if I see you Wednesday, if I don't see you on Tuesday. This is due the first time we have class again. So if I see you Monday, this is due on Monday. If I don't see you until Tuesday, this is due on Tuesday, as well as your homework. So please, please, please come prepared. If you have questions about homework problems, we need to go over them because that homework is going to be due on Tuesday, if I see you on Tuesday, or Wednesday. Oh, let me change that. If I see you on Monday, your homework is due the next time I see you after Monday. If I see you on Tuesday, your homework is due the next time I see you after Tuesday. So I want to have one more class period for you to ask questions before I make the homework due. All right, so let me say that again so there's no confusion. If we have class on Monday, your homework is going to be due the very next time I see you after Monday. If we don't have class until Tuesday, your homework will be due the very next class I see you after Tuesday. This practice test is due the very next time I see you. Practice test due next time I see you. All the homework packet due the second time I see you this coming week. All right, if you have any questions, email me. Thanks. Have a good day.